Hi, welcome to Senior Moments Successful Aging. I'm your host, Mary Beals Ludka. I'm the director for the Area Agency on Aging with NACOG. You can reach us toll free at 877-521-3500. If you have questions about today's show or maybe some ideas about shows you'd like to see in the future, please give us a call at 717-7607, and that would be Danny Tomerlin, our producer. So Danny does the work behind the scenes, and then I just show up and talk at you. So really, she's the one that's putting this together, and she would love to hear from you. So again, you can call Danny at 717-7607. So I want to welcome today's guest, Dion Connolly.
Hi.
Hi, Dion.
Hi,
Dion,
Mary.
I'll have to disclose that Dion works on my staff, and I'm very proud to have you on my staff.
Thank you.
Oftentimes when we hear from the public about wonderful things that staff is doing, it's about you.
Wow.
So it's
Thank
really
you.
exciting to have you here today and really to talk with everybody about information and referral and what that means. And when I mentioned that toll-free number earlier, that's how you reach Dion, is on that toll-free number. But before we get started on that, I want to talk a little bit about your background because it's really special. So I know you live in Flagstaff now, and how long have you been there?
Most of my life.
Okay.
I went to high school there and junior high, and after high school I moved up to Alaska where my other side of my family lives, and I didn't know a lot about my background and history, so I moved there to learn more, and just kind of was a fly by the seat of your pants type decision, but I ended up staying because I really liked it, and I liked what I was learning. I was learning about, I'm part Scottish and part Tlingit, and Tlingit is being Alaskan Native, and I never really knew much about that. My mom didn't talk to us about it too much, and I knew all about our Scottish heritage, which was great, but now it came a time when I wanted to learn about the Native side too, which was enlightening and fun, and my grandfather was a chief, and finding out little things like that was pretty interesting.
Finding out little things like you're a princess.
Yes.
Which I find fascinating.
Yes.
What did you think when you first found that out?
Well, at first I thought it was a joke.
It's like, I'm a princess. I love it.
Yeah. And then as I learned more about it and the meaning and the responsibility, it was pretty interesting. It made me respect more my background, my heritage.
And now it means something different to you that you're older.
Yes.
Not that you're older, but when you first went to Alaska, you were fairly young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was 17 when I went, yeah.
So I didn't know that when I hired you, and I remember going in and seeing the picture on your wall and saying, what is this picture from? And that's when I found out that you were a true princess. That's amazing. So one of the things you do for us, you started out some social work though when you were up there with the, how do you say that?
The Tlingit and Haida?
Yeah.
Yes, I worked for the housing authority up there. Yeah, and I was going around to the different locations and recertifying people and talking to the people about their homes, because it is HUD housing, but it's a little bit different there than it is here because you actually are purchasing your home.
Interesting.
And but every year you get recertified, and that depends on what your income was the previous year to what your payments will be this next year, and that was fun. But I got to talking to a lot of the elder people there that just were fascinating, and it was funny because they all knew about my family, and they'd say, oh, well, you're related to so-and-so, and you're related to so-and-so, and and it was kind of a respect that they were paying to me, but in turn I felt like I owed them respect, being elders and having known so much and knowing so much about my history that I was trying to find out about. Was really fun. And
Fascinating journey.
Yeah.
Fascinating. And now you're at the Area Agency on Aging, and you're a certified information and referral specialist.
Yes.
So first of all, what's information and referral? What do you do?
Well, I answer the phone. I'm the first contact person for the Area Agency on Aging. People will talk to me, and a lot of times we have to screen for what kind of services that they're looking for. And most people, they don't know. They say, I need help. And so I kind of do a little mini interview with them and find out what their needs are and what they think they're looking for. And then from there, I refer them. I make referrals. I'll do an intake and get their information, and I'll do a referral based on what their needs are. Someone may call in and say, well, I live kind of outside of town, but I don't have a car and I can't get to the store, and I really don't have food, and I'm disabled. And so we look at the things that'll fit for them, and a lot of times Meals on Wheels is something that works for them because they can't cook any longer. Or I hear a lot of people who've recently gone blind, macular degeneration or things like that, and they're afraid to cook because now they can't see what they're doing, and they can't even operate their microwave because they can't see the buttons on it. So for them to have a hot meal during the middle of the day is wonderful.
So. Actually critical, I would think, to nutritional health.
Yes.
So there's several programs at the Area Agency on Aging. Can you tell us about some of the ones that we do in-house, and then maybe some examples of things that you do outside of the Area Agency on Aging? And I think that's important to point out because folks think, oh, well, I don't really need Meals on Wheels. But you might be able to help them with something else in the community.
Right. Transportation is a big one. A lot of times people, like I said, they don't have a car, or they've been restricted from driving and they can't get around. They can't even go to see a friend because they're isolated now. They don't have what was once their freedom has been taken away. And so transportation is a big thing. It's a really hard thing to cover in the different communities because Arizona is just one of those states that, northern Arizona anyways, doesn't have a lot for transportation, and people really do suffer who cannot get a ride. And they end up being home, and they're shut in, and they're lonely, and I think that just adds and complicates their problems because it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, it is. And loneliness and isolation is a key factor in depression.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So, and I know, so you're certified. Let's talk about that a little. What does that mean that you're certified?
Well, last year I went to Atlanta, Georgia, to the AIRS conference, and where you learn about a lot of the different elements that there are in information and referral. There are a lot of people from the 211 lines.
System there.
Yeah, and you learn a lot from them too, just talking to them about how you make referrals, how you talk to people, and connecting with their kind of referrals, and how they're doing different things in different states and what might work in our state too. So it gives me a lot of ideas to try and get things moving, and worked on a couple projects trying to get something else started that will help the different people in northern Arizona where we're focusing on.
And then your team, so you're AIRS certified, and so that's a national certification.
Correct.
It's the same certification that 211 operators use throughout the country.
Right.
So it's really the highest standard for information referral. And then every 2 years you have to and you test.
Yes.
You have to take a test. So every 2 years you do that again.
Yes. And then this year I'm testing again because they're adding disability to it.
Nice.
So it'll not just be elderly, it'll be also the disabled. So that'll be an interesting factor because a lot of elderly people are disabled.
Right.
So.
And we also, are an open door to folks that need disability resources as well.
Yes.
So, it's not just about aging. It's about anybody who needs long-term supports and services.
Yes.
And so they can call that toll-free number, 877-521-3500. And one thing I always like to tell folks when they first call that phone number, they will get an automated answer and saying, your call is very important to us. We're searching for a staff person. And the phone will look through the staff to see who's on the phone. If you're on the phone, it'll roll to Aurelia, and if Aurelia's on the phone too, maybe it'll roll to Margaret. So, one of them should answer the phone. But if you don't, you are amazing at getting back to people.
Thank you. And that's a very big thing to me too. I don't like people hanging. I tend to think of it as they're almost like my family, and I wouldn't want my family in that situation where they're worried or they're afraid they're not going to get another meal, that they're out of touch with everything. And just the human contact for a lot of people makes a big difference, that somebody will actually talk to them.
And to be able to do that on the phone has to be a talent.
Well, I like people, and I really find elderly people fascinating. I love their stories. I love their background stories, because that's kind of relates to me finding out about my background as well, too. And, it's fascinating. Old people are fascinating, and I am sad that in our country we do not respect them and revere them more, that we almost treat them like they're disposable, and they're not. They're a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah. And it's nice also, I go in there, we have what we call the hub, and it's the quiet room because they're all on the phone. You guys are all on the phone. So I go in and you signal me if you're on the phone. Don't talk to me, Mary. But I listen to the exchanges that you have, and it takes a great deal of patience, too, because people tend to call you when they're upset.
Yeah. Well, and I always had kind of a calming presence. People always tell me, oh, you make me feel so calm when I'm around you. And it carries over the phone, too, because people will call near hysterical, and by the end of the conversation, they're feeling much better and feeling like, oh, good, someone's listened to me. I'm going to get some results here. I have a goal in mind. I want to be better, and that things aren't hopeless anymore.
And I think hope is the key word.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
that there is hope out there. And I think you're right, too. A lot of folks don't know about the services that we do have. What happens if it's an in-house service? What are some of those, and then what happens? You do the initial intake, and then where does it go?
Sure. Let's say somebody needs attendant care, but they don't know what it's called. They said, I'm really struggling at home. I can't really do anything for myself anymore. I'm having a hard time. I'm afraid to get in and out of my tub because, it's slippery and I know it's just not steady. Well, we have attendant services where somebody can come into the home and help them bathe, get dressed, toiletries if they need to, and also sometimes light housekeeping if they need help washing the dishes or they can't run the vacuum cleaner anymore. Somebody can come in and help them do that. Do small errands for them. Maybe they can't get to the prescription place and get the pharmacy to get their prescription, and that person may be able to run and go get that for them, and that's a big relief to a lot of people.
Yes, it is. And also some contact with the outside world.
Yes, absolutely.
So somebody might need attendant care. What do you do?
Well, I do their intake, I get their information, and then I explain to them that the information will now go to the case manager, who will contact them and set up an appointment with them that's convenient for both, and they'll come out to their house to visit them. And when they're out there, they'll look around and see if there's anything else too, because sometimes maybe just a grab bar in the shower is going to be enough to help that person get in and out of the shower by themselves. Or there might be rugs on the floor that just really are kind of a hazard because they're using a walker to get around and they're having to move that walker up and down just to get over the rug. Maybe move it to another place, or maybe the hallway's too narrow for a wheelchair, so they make recommendations there, because we also have a weatherization and a housing rehab department too that can go in and help people. If maybe they're just new to a wheelchair and they can't get the wheelchair in and out of their bedroom door, they can go in and help them remodify that so that they can get in and out.
Those are, and it seems like small things, but they're not.
No, they're
they can
huge.
really affect
Yeah.
your life. And you also screen for Meals on Wheels.
Meals on Wheels, and that's checking. We check the age and disability, find out where they're at and what their actual needs are, in the first screening, because sometimes people will say, "I just want it," and there's a want and a need, and we go by need first.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things with Meals on Wheels is that you have to be unable to fix that meal for you yourself.
Right.
And there's no one there to do it for you.
Right. And then we have what's congregate meals, where they actually go to the senior centers and have the meals there. And the people who can go for themselves,
Sure.
I recommend they do that. And a lot of times it's those same people that are shutting themselves in the house. They don't want to get out. They would rather someone deliver something so they can stay inside, when what they really need is to get out and be around other people. Yeah.
That socialization, that connection factor.
Yes.
Really, really important. And you have we have a resource data house?
Yes, we call it the Resource House, and it's continually expanding. We're always looking for new resources and referrals to different places, and we check them out. And there's a little bit of a background on check those, so we don't just accept anybody as a referral or a resource for us. They have to go through a little bit of scrutinization, and to make sure that they're a legitimate organization, because a lot of people can slap a magnet on their door and say, "Oh, I'm a delivery person for medical," but other than that, they're not background checked. We don't even know if they're can have a chauffeur's license to be carrying people around.
So they're vetted. I mean, certainly we have an inclusion-exclusion policy, and you know, and one of the things I know we don't list is like if you want a lawyer, we're going to send you to the American Bar or Arizona Bar Association. So you all have those numbers as well.
Yes.
So that you can help guide that person if it's not, you know, going to come directly from us. You
Right.
can help guide them to a number that they can call and get that information from.
Yeah. And then also the different law libraries are often really useful and helpful to people because we don't work on wills, and a lot of people want a will done, you know, and it's kind of fun to tell people, they say, well, I don't have a whole lot, but I, you know, just want to make sure that my house goes to my grandson or whatever, whomever they choose. And a holographic will in the state of Arizona is legal. And it's kind of fun to be able to tell someone, and they're usually quite relieved that if they write out their own will and they do it in their own handwriting and sign it, that's a legal will. That'll
Yes.
stand up in the courts. So,
And I'm glad you brought that up because one of the things you do are referrals to our legal providers.
yes.
So, and that takes a lot, you know, I mean, you and I work really closely on that because we work with, in this area, work with Community Legal Services. And so they do have a grant from us, but you have to call that toll-free number in order to get a referral under that grant. So you get all kinds of cases from that.
Oh, yeah. And there's certain things we can't work on. We can't work on criminal cases. We can't work on things that have to do with motor vehicle, that sort of thing. We don't really do... we do limited power of attorney, but that's, you know, special circumstances. We can help with guardianship, though. If somebody needs help getting guardianship because their loved one is no longer cognitive enough to take care of themselves. And yeah, we've actually helped quite a few people that has been good to hear because they've
And-
been in...
Been in dire straits.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was thinking about the landlord-tenant housing stuff that
Yes.
has come through that they've helped with, and I think it's really important for folks to know what their rights are, and also the consumer stuff.
Yes, yes.
You
Very
know, I
much
think
so.
that's really great.
Yeah, because that's another area where people, when they call, they're very stressed out because they're in a situation where it's do or die for them. They don't know what to do in their housing situation. They're being evicted and they don't really understand why, and that happens a lot. And I've had somebody say they're evicting me because I'm old because they said I might die in the apartment, so they don't want me there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
She actually said that?
Yeah, that's
Oh
what, and the
my-
landlord did say that.
Oh my
So we were able to
gosh.
help her, and the legal services was able to help her because that was a pretty ugly thing to.
How sad
happen.
is that?
Very sad.
You know.
And it breaks your heart because, you know, I'm the kind of person who wants to run out and help everybody.
Which
So-
you do help everybody. You're just doing it on the phone.
Yeah.
So how did, you know, just what does it mean to you?
It means a lot to me because I feel like I'm giving back to them, to somebody who needs my help, you know, that I'm young enough to where I can say, okay, this is what you can do. These are your options. This is a path that we can set for you. We can put things in motion to make your life a little bit more easy, a little easier so that you're not feeling so isolated, feeling alone, depressed. Some people just say they just have no hope. And it gives them hope.
There is hope.
Yes,
You just got to call the toll-free number
yes.
and get a hold of you or Aurelia or Margaret.
Margaret,
And we also have Josina on the
Yes.
on the bunch. So
Yeah.
don't be discouraged if they don't answer the phone right away. Because like I said, you guys are really good about getting back. You've got to leave a message though. And then we track all the phones, so calls, so we can follow up and also kind of figure out what are the patterns, where are the needs.
Yeah.
And I think that's important too, that you guys keep track of
Track
that
of
for
those,
me,
yeah.
so I can look at that and go, okay, we've gotten an awful lot of calls on this. Maybe we should do a clinic on landlord-tenant housing
Yeah.
rights or whatever the case may be. So another thing that we offer is caregiver services.
Caregiver services, yep, and that's another really big one. And because a lot of times somebody will end up quitting their job to stay at home to take care of their parents because they can't take care of themselves anymore. And so we offer classes to help them know how to be a better caregiver, also give them a little bit of relief. We offer help with respite care, so that if that caregiver needs to take a break, to do whatever they need to do, go to their own doctor's appointments, go shopping, go just, you know, spend a couple hours by themselves and get a breather just so that they can regroup and go back home again and be a better person for the person that they're caring for.
Because the statistics are really scary.
Yes,
so,
it is.
So caregiver, often people don't think of themselves as a caregiver, but if you're taking care of a loved one and you're not getting paid for it, you're a caregiver.
Right. And then there's options to for people to become paid caregivers, especially the ones that they're struggling financially, you know, and there are different groups. There's the Caregiver Coalition that can help people get certified to become a licensed caregiver, and then they can become a paid caregiver. And that makes a big difference to a lot of people, because especially the young ones who've quit their jobs and are taking care of their parents, but they have no other income, and they still have bills to pay and stuff. So
Still got to eat.
yes.
Still got to have heat in the winter. And of
Yep.
course, around here, we got to have air conditioning.
Yeah.
I mean, it gets pretty hot. It gets hotter every summer. So we definitely have referrals to weatherization that come
Yes.
through to you.
Yes, and weatherization's great. They can help if you are living in a home, maybe an older home where the windows are just the single pane. They're not very good, and you need new windows. You know, we can help get new windows installed in your home. Thing is, you have to be either the homeowner or the person who owns the place that is getting fixed. So if you have a tenant living in a place and you're the landlord who can't afford otherwise to fix it, then the landlord can request. But usually it's people who own the home,
Right.
and they need things like I said, the windows. We've had people who live in older trailers who have holes in the floor where they're saying, "Oh, I can look straight through to the ground, and I just put
Oh
a
my
board
gosh.
over it." You know,
That's not good.
no, and so we can get people in the rehab to go in and fix that sort of thing for them too.
That's good. And I think they also do, they do energy tests, see how much is leaking?
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And, so that's another thing that, again, I think people don't realize the depth and the breadth of things that they can connect to by calling that toll-free number and getting a hold of Dion. Because you can pull that resource house up on the computer.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Right.
And a lot of it I already know because I see
Been doing it.
Yeah, been doing it, and I see it, and am able to refer people and give them peace of mind.
One of the things I think, too, that's important to point out is that if you have a community organization that's doing a project, I think it's important that you also call the toll-free number and let Dion know. Because let's say the Boy Scouts are going to do a cleanup next weekend, and someone calls and says, "I really need help cleaning up my yard." Oh, well, guess what? We can give your name with your permission, or we can connect them by the phone to this organization that's going to do a big event next week or whenever it might be. So we're only as strong as our communities that feed information back into that system.
Yeah, that is so true. Yeah, and I get a lot of calls and emails on people who are informative. They do let us know when events are going on, and then we can pass that on to our clients so that they know and are aware too.
I don't know how you keep track of it all. I know you have a big calendar with all our stuff on it, like we have health and wellness classes. So if people want to learn about managing their diabetes, they could call, or managing their chronic disease, or managing pain, managing balance so that they don't fall. All those things. We have classes on an ongoing basis. You just call that toll-free number and say, "Hey, when's the next class? Where is it? How do I get involved?" That's another area that you help with.
Yeah, and I think I remember because I care. It's not because, oh, there's too much to remember. It's because I care and I want people to be helped. So,
Yes, I know you care. I know you care. You also had some background with some government in Santa Fe.
I was the student government president for the Institute for American Indian Arts,
Interesting.
which was it was pretty great. It was an awesome school. I really enjoyed it there. And I was the student government president there when the school had lost their funding from the government. And so I got to travel with the board of directors and go to Washington, D.C. and speak before Congress, and that was thrilling.
Wow.
Yeah.
All the advocacy work I've done, I've never spoken in front of Congress.
Well, it was it was kind of one of those funny things. At the time, because I was a lot younger, they said all the board of directors were telling me, "You don't talk to anybody. Direct all the questions to us. You just are here for visual purposes." And I said, "Okay." So I didn't intend to talk to anybody, so I'm sitting there kind of listening, and then all of a sudden they're asking, "Is your student representative here? We'd like to hear from them." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh!"
I guess I'm going to talk now.
Yeah, yeah. But I just spoke from the heart and said what I meant, and we ended up getting half the funding back from the government for the school. So that was really awesome.
Good job.
Yeah.
But I think that you just said one of the keys about you is you speak from the heart. And it's amazing what comes across on the phone. It's a different kind of communication because there's no body language, there's no eye contact, but yet your tone of voice and how you're feeling comes across to that client.
Because it's genuine. I really genuinely feel for these people, and I really do care about them.
Yeah.
And I learned in AIRS when I went to the conference when I was getting certified that how you talk to people, if you're talking to them, even though you think you're sounding like you're interested and giving the cues and things to say, okay, I understand. If you're doodling on a pad of paper or looking around, that comes across too. It does come across in your voice how you talk, because
Interesting.
you become lazy. Your vocals become lazy, and even though you're doing what you think you're supposed to be doing, but you're concentrating somewhere else, and then you miss a lot of things that people will say. And I have to admit, I've been a little bit guilty of that when somebody rambles on about their background a little long. But,
You're like, okay, snap out of it.
Yeah.
Well, I know that if you stand up, you know, if you need to be assertive on the phone, if you physically stand up, it does change your vocals, and people can feel that across the lines, you know. And so I know they feel you.
Yeah.
And they feel you're genuine, caring, and I think your teammates are the same way.
Yes, they
you
are.
know, so I
have a
really
great
encourage everybody to, you know, utilize that number. We're here for you.
yeah.
And, you know, so I really want to thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Mary.
Get you out of the office a little bit.
Yes.
I'm used to seeing the headset on, and so it's nice to see you out of that office. And thank you so much for joining us and learning a little bit more about our central intake. Information referral through the Area Agency on Aging. And again, it's a toll-free number, 877-521-3500. Call that number if you have any kind of question about long-term supports and services for the aging and for the disabled. Thank you, Dion Connolly, for being with us today. I'm Mary Beals-Lutka. This is Senior Moments, Successful Aging. Until next time.